Get you the updates because now this is getting serious. And of course, when it comes to this latest strike that has been reported of a drone that has now triggered a fire near the Baraka nuclear power plant in Abu Dhabi. And after one of the 3 drones entering the UAE airspace managed to hit an electrical generator outside the facility's inner perimeter. And this is now accordingly coming in that the rest of the 2 drones seems to have been intercepted, while the 3rd one caused fire, which was later brought under control. Now, this is coming in from the UAE authorities who have confirmed that there was no impact on the radiological safety and no injuries that were reported. But this seems to be serious as far as this concern that is now being raised over near a nuclear plant. We're getting to know that when it comes to the Baraka nuclear plant, this kind of an attack of a drone strike that has now been reported, as one of them managed to hit a generator facility. However, the other 2 drones were successfully intercepted. Now, there has been some damage that has been reported outside the inner perimeter, but according to the UAE authorities, the situation has now been brought under control. Now, in the meantime, talk about how India has also been talking about. But Mayank, good morning. This concern is big because if nuclear power plants come under target, then the concern even raises for a escalation in the military, attack. That is something which US seems to be not ruling out post Trump's visit to China.
Yeah, Amita, good morning and good morning to the viewers. It is very sensitive and important for the reason that in this war which started on 28th of February, I mean, there had been 3 different occasions wherein the nuclear sites or in the neighborhood blasts or explosions have taken place in the neighborhood of nuclear sites, which includes nuclear sites of Iran, which are targeted jointly by Israel and the US. And we brought live reports from Dimona, wherein the research facility of Israel lies. And that was also hit, and that was in the neighborhood. And now you see such an important place, again, nuclear establishment has been, or in the periphery, blast has taken place. The best part in all the cases had been that there was no rise in or leak of radiation or rise in the radiation in the environment. That's the only saving grace we can see. But then, having said that, nothing stops from being a little worried about it, because nuclear establishments, if let's say something happens or there is a chance or there's no margin for error actually in such cases. So it becomes really sensitive and important and needs to be seen, and that no such strike takes place in such areas.
Absolutely, because this is for the first time that we are looking at such kind of a strike that has now been reported, and that too in the UAE. As far as when it comes to these developments are concerned, it is being said that there were no injuries reported, and thankfully no radiological safety levels that still remain unaffected. But there is another update that is now coming in as far as the reaction from the Indian side. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was just there a few days ago in the UAE, and in the meantime, India has also condemned the Baraka nuclear attack as far as when it comes to the drone that managed to infiltrate. But we are looking at the MEA, which is now expressing concerns over the attack and calling this attack to be a dangerous escalation. So as far as first up, let's take a look exactly when it comes to the UAE authorities, which has also condemned the terrorist targeting of the area surrounding the Baraka station. And as far as when it comes to this statement that has now been released by the authorities, meanwhile, India has also condemned the attack. When we speak of the Federal Authority for the Nuclear Regulation saying that the plant's key systems were functioning normally, and the UAE has seen several missile and drone attacks during the Israel, US and Iran conflict, including incidents that came in were when it comes to missile and drone attacks that were aimed at the UAE's energy facilities and also maritime infrastructure. So this is how India has now talked about it, calling it as a dangerous escalation, and has condemned the attack. And this is now India condemning when it comes to this attack. With the MEA, the Ministry of External Affairs, has now expressed concerns over the attack and calling this to be a dangerous escalation, where the MEA has also called for restraint immediately. And India, meanwhile, is now saying that this attack is unacceptable. So as far as this particular attack is concerned, we're looking at certain incidents which have still continued post the ceasefire. And of course, when it comes to almost 80 days into the conflict. Srinjoy, good morning. This is what we are now looking at, a nuclear power plant being targeted. And of course, this facility that seems to be located in remote western desert of Abu Dhabi, which is also very close to the Saudi border.
First of all, any attack on a nuclear power plant can be very dangerous, because this will not only affect the country attacked, but it will actually affect the country that has done the damage, because nuclear clouds of radiation do not differentiate between attacker and attacked, because they go everywhere. If you remember the implosion at Chernobyl all those years ago, at that time, the high levels of radiation were picked up not in the Ukraine, but in Sweden, hundreds of miles away. So this can affect not just the country concerned. Assuming that this attack was really aimed at the nuclear power plant, it will affect the whole region. And what it will do will be so damaging that not just both countries, but every country in the area will be affected. Involved in the war, neutrals, everyone else will be affected. So any attack on a nuclear plant, or any attack in areas very close to nuclear plants, can be very disturbing. Whether it's in Dimona, whether it's in the UAE, whether it's in Iran.
You know, as far as Baraka is concerned, it remains to be the first and only nuclear power plant in the Arabian Peninsula. And of course, when it comes to recent years, nuclear power plants have increasingly, and this is a concern, has become a part of conflict zones that has begun during Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine back in 2022. So in the meantime, let's take a look how India has now condemned this attack that has been reported. And this is a statement coming in from the MEA. The Ministry of External Affairs has now come out to say that India is deeply concerned at the attack targeting the Baraka nuclear facility in the UAE, and such actions are unacceptable and represent a dangerous escalation, and we urgently call for restraint and a return to dialogue and diplomacy. So this is something which India continuously has been standing for, and especially when it comes to the recent conflict that we are looking at. Tehran repeatedly said that its Bushehr nuclear power plant has also come under attack. Let's in the meantime talk about Saudi Arabia's defense ministry says that it has also intercepted 3 drones that were targeting the kingdom in a fresh aerial threat, and the officials have confirmed that the drones were launched from the direction of Iraq but were detected and they were stopped before they could reach their intended targets. So this seems to be another round of escalation that is being witnessed despite there being a ceasefire. There has been, as far as when it comes to these incidents of attacks in the conflict zones in the Gulf regions, that have continued. So Saudi has also said that certain drones that were coming in from Iraq side is something that they have managed to intercept, and it has from the Iraqi airspace that is being said that they have intercepted. And of course, when it comes to the kingdom's defense ministry saying that it will also take necessary operational measures to respond to any attempt to violate its sovereignty and also its security. So this is another development that has now happened. But when it comes to, Mayank, is it, Iran-backed militias that seems to be targeting Saudi? Because if this is not a direct attack coming in from the Iranian side, if Iraq seems to be, its airspace seems to be used for conducting these attacks on Saudi, does it mean that it is the Iranian proxy that seems to be launching these attacks?
Interesting point, Amita, and we need to talk about the analysis which was being done while the war was on. And there were, there were certain, people thinking, or there were certain aspects and analysis made by certain defense analysts that Iraq could be used territorially to launch certain attacks on Iran also. That was one of the idea which was toyed by the defense analysts, saying that US might influence certain people or might seek the support from that side. So when you see such kind of drones being launched from that side, let us also bring in the names like Houthi, Hezbollah and Hamas also. So these were the proxies which were said to be used by Iran to leverage its effect on the region in particular, and Israel in particular actually. So what you see is definitely expansion of that influence, and as you have used the word proxy.
Yes.
So these are the areas wherein Iran has its influence in one way or the other, directly or indirectly. So definitely, I mean, these things could not be, totally precluded, because there were analysis made. And mind it, one important point, because
Yes.
drones are specifically being used in both the cases, which is UAE and Iraq. That means the arsenal, as far as missiles and drones are concerned, these are the reflections of that.
You know, the military
Iran-
operations resume, it is being said that it is going to be even more devastating than the first round of almost 80 days into the war that, you know, the world has witnessed in the Gulf region. And the ramification is something that the entire world seems to be bearing the consequences. Now, speaking of President Trump, let's talk about his latest warning that he has now given to Iran. He says that time is ticking, and, you know, if they don't come up with a peace proposal, then there would be not much of Iran that would be left. Now, President Trump, who has sparked this fresh speculation after sharing a cryptic post on Truth Social featuring a map of the Middle East overlaid with the American flag. And this is where it gets interesting, because this seems to be another way of, you know, when it comes to power pressure that seems to be building up on these zones already, as far as the main contention being when it comes to the nuclear sites of Iran is concerned. Iran in no condition will be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. This is something that America and China, both of them have agreed to. Of course, when it comes to President Trump's latest visit, but post his China visit, the help that President Trump has also been seeking from the Chinese side to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, that remains to be seen. But if dialogue and diplomacy is the way forward. But President Trump is now of the opinion that he says that, you know, nothing would be left of Iran if they don't get moving. So this is where it gets interesting. Of course, there is nothing written in that post, but this picture that has now been posted by President Trump. So there you can see the American flag, 50 of the stars there. And of course, when it comes to Iran, so you see all of the pointers there seems to be coming on the Iranian side. So this is the Middle East. And of course, when it comes to the American pressure that seems to be building on Iran is something which President Trump seems to be indicating through this latest post. So this is now coming in from President Donald Trump's side, of course, with the warning that if it doesn't get moving, because time is ticking, then there won't be much left of Iran. Iran has also in a way responded saying that beyond the Sea of Oman, it is going to be turning into a graveyard for the US military, because there is already a Strait of Hormuz that seems to be blocked. And beyond that is the naval blockade that has been imposed by the United States military. So that seems to be the Middle Eastern situation that is developing.